Founders Floor, a co-working accelerator for startups.
Pear, we are an early stage fund. We're based in Palo Alto. We invest cross sectors, so it's called generalist, which is not a good name in venture, but that means we really invest in everything. Some companies are consumers, some are B2B. I have biotech companies, robotics, etc. We are really looking for great founders that are very ambitious, that want to build big companies. And we're looking, to invest in markets that we think are growing. Typically, the companies we invest in use technology to unlock some value, and that's where we end up making money. So that's what we do. There's a couple of things that are special about us. The first thing is that we're really hands-on. We help our companies. We kind of call ourselves a 0 to 1 VC. So when we invest in a company, we commit to helping them get to the next stage, at least, and our commitment goes further to build an important company. So a company comes in and we give, even before we give them money, we're like, okay, what is it gonna take to prove that this will be a big company? So typically, if you guys are already working in an idea, that means for us, it's like, can they build an engine that can be scaled by the next investor that comes along? And I can dive in more into that. So that's number one, what we do. Number two, we really have a very specific process about how we get our companies to the Series A financing. As you know, there's a lot of seed money, a lot of angels, so it's harder and harder to raise Series A. I think we have one of the largest hit rates, if not the largest in the seed space, but it's a process, and that's where being an engineer maybe helps, but it's important. So that's the second thing we do. And the third is, like you guys, there's a big community, all these people, you guys meeting around. There was some value created, some people meeting each other, so we spend a lot of time in events for our community and connecting people, etc. So that's a little bit about Pear. And like you said, I'm an engineer by training. I'm a founder, so there's a little bit of founder empathy. I always, realize how hard it is to start a company, and a lot of people come to pitch and they're nervous, but you shouldn't be, because it's just what it is, and it's fine. We're all people at the end of the day, I like challenging companies, to be honest. I think, no company is easy. There's always problems, but I specifically thrive with companies that, have some sort of challenge that needs to be fixed. And, I don't shy away from that. So that's my personality. It doesn't work for everybody, but it works for me. And I have, my free time, I've been in semiconductor industry, which is, as you know, full of men, and I got my PhD. I think there was, we graduated 88 people in my year. There were 2 women, so I've been surrounded by men all my life. So I'm spending a lot of my older years trying to give back to the female community, and I do a lot of pro bono, trying to help women with their pitches or with whatever it takes to get them to the next stage. So I know there's a lot of men here, and I love everybody, but but anyways, that's what I do.
It's good. We're trying to make progress in the VC community. You came from the chipset industry, and then VC was kind of that way, and still is for that matter. So, and then you guys also, I wouldn't say it's a focus, but I mean, both you and your other managing partner, Pejman. So both immigrants yourself, really,
yes.
Right? So is that kind of a focus? In other words, you take a second look to companies that maybe are immigrant founders?
We take a second look at almost everything, because I think we're wrong many times. It's easy. I think all of us VCs are known for our great successes, but for all the DoorDashes and Gartner's this giant company, all the successes that we have, there's many companies that we missed, and we don't talk about that. There's also companies that fail, and we don't talk about that. But just to demystify venture, imagine you had a resume where your failures were hidden. Only people would talk about your successes, right? It would be great. Well, Just know it's not true. So yeah, we're very critical about when we pass on something that we shouldn't have, or when we make the wrong investment decision, we try to get better. So the second looks are important in many cases. Immigrants, I think are a special kind of people. A lot of you, I know, are probably immigrants. I don't know, maybe I'll do a raise of hands. Who is an immigrant in this group? Okay, there you go. So
I'm originally from Iowa on a farm. Is that an immigrant? That's kind of like, a little bit.
So, I think we're generally more risk takers, and a lot of people come here with nothing. And a founder always has something to prove. They have something in them, and those are the best founders. They don't give up because they just have something to prove. And many times that's correlated to being an immigrant. So it's not always the case, but it's many times correlated. That's why many successful companies are founded by immigrants or by, first generation whose parents were immigrants.
Yeah. I thought we'd start off with some questions from the audience here right away. Qasim Salam. Okay, awesome. Great, excellent. Now, do you have a company you'd like to maybe do a 60-second pitch for as well? Okay, that sounds good. I'll give you the mic, and hopefully you remember your question as well. Otherwise, I get a cheat sheet for you. No, it's right up. Oh, good. Okay, excellent. Good.
So my name's Qasim, and I'm working on a company called Worky.ai. So what we're doing is we're building performance tracking tools for engineers. And the question is, so I recently moved here to the Bay Area, so my question was related to that. How do you generate warm intros if you just just move to the Bay Area, considering that it's like a very tightly packed circle where it's very hard to, get meetings with VCs like you because you get so many emails and whatnot. So that's the question.
Where are you from?
Pakistan.
Okay. Well, you're here today, so that's great, right? That's a first step. So maybe you can friend Matt, right? And he can make an intro to his favorite VC. That's truly one way to do it. You impress Matt. Matt knows 10 people that he knows. He's so impressed, he's going to connect you. The great thing about the world we live today is that you can, there was no LinkedIn when I started my company. There was barely an internet. There was an internet, but it was empty. So today, if I were you, I'd be like, okay, who are the most successful Pakistani founders that I can get my hands on, right? And I would try to search those people and try to friend those founders. Founders typically have more empathy than venture people because we've been there. And if you connect with your community that has something in common with you, in this case being Pakistani, I would ask them to introduce you to their venture people. And as venture people, if one of our founders makes an introduction, we take it very seriously. That's almost like a 10-to-1 that you'll get a meeting, right? So that's what I would do if I were you. I think you have to work your network. And, like I said, being here, you're already doing something.
Sometimes that's a filtration process as well because, a lot of VCs don't have a problem with deal flow. It's quality deal flow for them. And so they need a filtration, and if a founder is able to work their network and go to these events like this, be able to make a connection here and then maybe do a warm follow-up with an email later on saying, I was the one that asked that question about this and this, then there's a likelihood there's going to be at least some response from that. So that shows you got that go-get-em attitude to be able to actually potentially make this successful, as your company.
Yeah, and it's good when you write an email. Don't write a very long email because we don't have a lot of time. So I think if you can, just for dummies, like bullet points, it's good,
Yeah. Next question is with George. George, you here?
Hi, I'm George,
George.
CEO of Brain of the Store. My question that I'm going to read, because I don't remember the wording, but it's basically how you react when things go really south. But how have you handled it when a company has struggled through a financing round, missed revenue targets, had an exodus of employees, so on and so forth. These kinds of things, big bad events happen. As a VC, how do you handle those?
Well, the first thing is to realize as a founder that every company has problems. Every company, and I think if people have worked in a company, sometimes it's almost like how they can go IPO when you're inside and it's a mess, right? So every company has problems. I think the most important thing is for the founder and CEO has to be aware and acknowledge that there is a problem, right? many times, the first thing I need to do when there is a problem is get people to acknowledge that there is a problem, right? And once there is a problem and you're like, there is a problem, I know there's a problem, I'm gonna not just acknowledge it to myself, but to the rest of my team, and then we're gonna make a plan and we're gonna try to fix it, right? So if you have that attitude, no problem is unsurmountable. At least you have a plan, right? And your people that work for you, your investors, they have faith in the CEO. So the worst thing is, all your people are leaving. Everybody knows, right? Because people quit, so everybody knows. But the CEO is acting like everything is great, right? So those are the wrong companies. So number one is acknowledgement. Sometimes the problems are not that your people quit, is that you can't sell your product. If you've built something that you can't sell for enough money, so how are you gonna do it? And those are a little, not bigger. They're different in the sense that, it requires a lot of mental capacity to actually get out of, the product that you've been working on for a long time and pivot and figure something else. And that's actually what I like to do. I'm kind of a product person, so I like that challenge. But it's hard for a company to go through that phase, right? I think at Pear, I'm a little anal, so I will meet with my companies at least, once a month. If I feel like they're going in that direction, I will do it every couple of weeks, so they're every week, whatever it takes. And I require that my founders have a set of KPIs, so with numbers, not quality. When people say sales are going great, it's like, well, how much, everything has a number. And then I can quickly see, okay, it's not working or it's working, and I can try to attack it ahead of time. The one thing I would say to you guys is that once you get an investor, the investor is part of your team already, right? We're not there we literally gave you the money, so we're shareholders of this company. So the worst thing you can do is hide the bad news, right? So if you hide the bad news, and this happens all the time because people want to see me and tell me they're doing great. But if you tell me, hey, this is not working, then I'm gonna roll up my sleeves and help you. And I think most venture people would do that. We're not gonna be like, oh, you suck, you're terrible, and that doesn't happen, because we know at this stage the founder is so critical to make the company happen. The founder is the company. So you have to be a great communicator. All these companies that we've had IPO or they're multi-billion-dollar valuations, they have one thing in common. The CEO was a very good communicator from day one, and they send emails that say exactly where they are, what help they need, what's going right, what's going wrong, right? And it's actually really good practice to do that. It avoids getting into a disaster, or at least you're getting help getting into that disaster. So that's that's a suggestion.
That's exactly what I was going to really say. I think one thing I'll add, it's not even part of the question, but I'd like to add it, which is, at the end of the day, investors assume things are not going to go rosy all the time, and so they're there to help, like Mar was saying, but it might be good for you guys. So many times in this early stage, investors are always checking references on the founders. The reality is you should actually start thinking about, checking other portfolio companies and talking to the CEOs of those companies to be able to see how these investors acted during the times when things didn't go so great, because at the end of the day, they're supposed to be helping you, So those are some things you might want to think about, because at the end of the day, you don't want bad investors on your cap table. It's in the early stage, especially when you're talking about angel investors, it's a real pain in the butt, Now, VC-wise, there's very few bad apples, but on the angel investor side, it can get ugly fast sometimes, so something to think about. I'm going to go next to Colby. Colby, are you here? Okay. I'm going to ask you a question, if that's okay, if you're not going to. Because I think, unless you're here. Colby, no? Okay. So the question is, how is bootstrapping perceived from the VC or angel perspective? Does there tend to be a negative connotation with funding your own company, or can it be beneficial as the entrepreneur has skin in the game?
No, we love bootstrap companies. I think they are typically very strong companies. So because you've had to figure out how to actually make money. And every company eventually has to make money, right? It's not like all about getting users or growth. At the end, it's about making money, or else you can't go public and you can't really, have a liquidity event. So the companies that bootstrap typically are very strong, have very strong DNA. We know for sure the unit economics work unless they're leveraged or something, which rarely happens. So those are strong. Now, the thing that I've seen with bootstrap founders is that they're more reluctant. They may have something that is working, but they're more reluctant to raise funding from venture because it means that they really have to change their mentality, right? It's not about once you have something that is working, what we do in venture, the Series A people will do, is they'll give you $10, $20 million, right? You're supposed to take that money and invest in acquiring customers or investing in sales. You're investing that money in your company, which means that for a certain amount of time, you're spending more money than making money with the intention, with the expectation that, in fact, that's a good thing, right? Because you'll get the money later. It doesn't always work, but that's what venture is about. So bootstrap founders typically feel very, very uncomfortable doing that. They just feel like they're in the wrong company. So if you're one of those, then you have to make that conscious decision if you knock on a venture capital's door that they're gonna make you act like a growth company, not something that is growing 1.5x per year. But they'll want you to work to grow 5x a year or more.
You're talking about strong founders. You guys have seen a lot of founders throughout your career. What are some of those key characteristics that you see continually, time and time again, that successful founders have? Is there something that you like to see as a criteria yourself? Or?
Well, my partner says that good founders are like good wine. You kind of know when you taste it, but you can't really describe it. And there's a lot of that, it's what makes a good wife. I don't know, it's hard to put into words, right? And, and I think the great thing in venture is that all of us have different tastes. So, I may like a founder and you go to the next venture person, they don't like them because they're too aggressive or whatnot, right? That's the great. General, very, very high level. And if you had the money and you wanted to hand money to somebody, how would you pick the person you want to hand money to, right? You would want to have some level of trust that that person can make it, right? So how do you believe that a person can do it? Hopefully, they can explain what they do with clarity. They're ambitious. They almost make you dream with them in a sense, right? There's some characteristics that I say that a founder is a little bit like the captain of a ship. If you're the captain of the ship, you kind of make plans but know when to adjust them. You are the last person to leave the boat, so when everybody leaves, you're still there, right? You know how to lead. And you put people in the right places and delegate, but you can still make decisions. So it's that role of a person that we're looking for. It's really hard to put it into words. One of the common characteristics that Drew or Tony or these guys that build huge companies have is they actually invest in themselves. So, when you go in and you start a company and you have 3 people and you go to run a company that has 5,000 people, you need different skills, right? So these people are always reading. They read all the time and they ask for help and they surround themselves by better people. So it's really interesting, but if you ask that question to a world leader, you'll see that a lot of them are actually trying to keep learning all the time. And I think that's just, I don't know if it's correlated to success or the cost of success, I would say, but it happens in our portfolio.
Mm-hmm. Charles, are you here? Charles Nolan?
What do you feel is or are the most common reasons for failure, possibly over specialization?
I think the biggest reasons, there's many reasons for failure, right? But most of it is that people are not aware of where they are in the world or in the map of what they're trying to build. They believe their own product is too good or what they're doing is too good. That sometimes is accompanied by ego. So, just not recognizing where the company is, where you are as a person, makes companies fail, right? And it's hard. It's really hard to be a founder. It's just so hard. I really feel, I'm very aware that what you guys are doing is super hard. And it's very hard for people to get the right feedback from others, right? It's very hard to tell somebody, yeah, your idea is not gonna work, or you should work on this, on that. I would say that the people that are always constantly asking questions and demanding that people give them the right feedback, and then they act on it and they're able to adjust, who does great. Many of our very successful companies have gone into pivots, where they start somewhere, they realize it's not working, they change, it's all rational. And I think if they had kept doing the same thing, it actually doesn't work, right? The good CEOs ask for a lot of feedback, but they don't just do what I say. They make their own decisions, right? And I don't know everything, but they'll go and ask a bunch of people, and then they make a call, right? And I think that's a sign of success, because they're trying to figure out how to do things. If obviously nobody's born knowing everything. So the lack of wanting to grow in a personal level really impacts failure, in my experience.
Yeah. One of the things I'll add to that is what I've seen, one of the main reasons I've seen of companies failing is just co-founder infighting. At the end of the day, things in the early stage sometimes are going kind of okay, and everybody gets along really great when things are going well, and all of a sudden you start having some hiccups here and there, or life changes happen for one of the co-founders or something, and now it starts to get stressful, and then you start to see how people act under extreme stress, and sometimes that's where the fighting starts to happen a little bit, and then you just have inability to make, important decisions under stress. So I think that's kind of one of the things. That's why I would say, when you're looking for co-founders, realize it's like a marriage, in a way. And so it's not going to be rosy all the time. And so you want to make sure you have somebody along your side that's, you absolutely get along with really well in the good times and the bad times. And so sometimes that rock star CTO, it's super great at what they do. If you don't get along with them super great, maybe that's not necessarily the right co-founder for you, potentially, So that's just something I'll kind of add to that. I was going to also change the gears a little bit and talk about the fundraising process. And, as some of these companies start that process, they kind of have some misunderstandings about how long it might take. What's your recommendation on, when they need to start and how many weeks or months they need to expect to be ready for that?
Well, it depends on how much money you're trying to raise. Yeah. But, it's a little bit like selling a house. If you were to sell your house today, you probably want to clean it up and, make it look good and so on. So if you go fundraising, you better have your act together. So that means, your deck should be ready. You should have your, it's great to have a data room, even if you're like a little seed company, why not look professional? So with your references, it makes the process go faster, right? With your plans, with whatever, right? So typically people skip all of this and just go fundraise and talk to people. And it's like a drug. You talk to 10 people, 10 people say no, and you're like, oh, if I could just talk to one more, I'm just gonna get funded. And it doesn't work that way. I think the best thing is almost like if you're running a consumer company and you split your people into cohorts, you almost do the same thing, So you're like, okay, I'm gonna like try to get my pitch together, my story together. You try to get some friendly feedback, but honest feedback. And you don't necessarily need to get that from a venture person, but it's great if you can, or somebody that makes investments. And you really wanna get from somebody that's the story, what am I missing, right? Is it, just to give you a sense, I'm helping 3 of our companies do Series A pitches. I was working with one right before this. They're in the 13th revision of their deck, right? And we're not yet talking to people, but that's how the details really matter, and the words you use, and how do you explain the story. So the people that, it's like an athlete, if you don't prepare and you go run, well, you're not gonna win the race, right? So you have to spend your time doing that. And then, once you think you're kind of ready, my recommendation is you go to talk to anywhere from 2 to 4 investors. I would recommend they're not your A+ investors, so I would put them in my B list, maybe. And you go through the process, you gather their feedback, which actually, the way to get feedback from people is not to say, hey, can you give me feedback? It's like, hey, put yourself in my shoes. Hey, I'm a founder, I really wanna get better. You would really help me if you could tell me what can I do to make this a good business. And that has an impact on how the rate of response of investors. If you tell them, you could help me buy, because all investors want to help, so you just make it really easy for them. Once you get that feedback, hopefully you do one more iteration, and then you go to your next cohort, and that cohort could be bigger, et cetera, right? Sometimes it takes many iterations to get it right? And again, it's about being aware of who you are, listening to feedback, adjusting, and so on. Some people hear the same thing 10 times and they don't hear it. So, financing can take a week or it can take a year. It's just the way it is.
Yeah. Sean, are you here? Sean?
Very nice meeting you. Yeah, I'm getting to my question. I know that you talk about wine. As Pejman says, this is like tea or wine. When you see a good one, you know. But if you were to look at a team or a product, a company, especially in B2B SaaS, are you ever using algorithmic approach and numerical methodology to figure out if this is something that is worth investing or not? Or is it just your gut feeling and what the team is like?
No, we don't use algorithms. Because at the stage we are, there's just too little. But we do look at the team very much, not just at the founder. And typically, if you look at any successful company that has a co-founding team, Dropbox or Facebook, DoorDash, they have a team of founders. Can go anywhere from 2 to 4, but there's clearly one main founder, right? And you could name the main founder of all the big companies. So we look in a founding team for that leader, and it should be clear to us. Many times happens that we get a founding team in the room, and the guy who is the leader is not the CEO. So you already know there's going to be a problem, right? For example, so we look for that. We also look for kind of respect among the team and clear ownership. So if you're doing SaaS, so maybe there is somebody, I don't know, maybe you're using AI, I have no idea, I'm just gonna assume since everybody uses it. So maybe you have an AI person, you have a front-end person, you have somebody that's done sales, understands SaaS sales, and somebody that's done digital marketing. Let's assume that's your scenario. And it's very clear, then I'm like, oh, I get it. They have a product, they have 3 customers. I know that this founding team is gonna be able to figure out how to, efficiently sell the product, right? It can happen that these 4 things, in your case, maybe, these 4 things is the same founder that's able to do it. It could be that something is missing and we gotta go and hire it. But it's clear within the founding team who's doing what. And that really, and there's trust between everybody. There's no, when people answer a question and the other person's like, actually, that's not right, let me answer it, that's also a bad sign. When there's trust in a company, you can move really, really fast, right? Because you're trusting that part is getting done and you're not questioning something, et cetera. So all those are small things, but it's, is it a functional team? That's what we're trying to figure out, right? And if it's not complete, we try to figure out, we ask the question, who do you think is needed? And sometimes people don't know, but sometimes people are aware, I'm missing this, and I'm gonna go get this person or these 2 people and so on, right? And that's a good answer too, right? But that's what we insist on having the team come. It's really strange when a founder comes to a small company, only one person comes fundraise, then I'm like, where's the rest of your people? Because that's what we're funding at the end of the day, right? Anyways.
Ariella, are you here? There we go. If you'd like to say something about your company as well, you can.
Hi, Mar, again, pleasure. My name is Aurelia McConnell. I'm the founder of Yoapp. My question is basically surrounded by capital, and it's more so for strategy-wise. So after you consider raising your seed from a venture capital, if I guess a startup prefers to raise a Series A round only from corporate capital, would that be advisable? And it's primarily based on economic swings that do so occur. And it's just to address contingencies that might happen and fluctuations within the market, and it's kind of a padding. So,
Cool.
Corporate VC.
Corporate venture.
Yes.
I think a lot of people raise corporate venture money, but typically the best of the corporate money is done at a Series B, C, D, et cetera, because they have a lot of money and they're very insensitive to valuation. So it's not easy to raise $100 million or 200 or 300. It's just not easy, and you have to fill it up. Those rounds have to be filled up. So those guys are good, very good for those rounds. Definitely at the seed stage is very complicated, because at the seed stage you're figuring out, how do I build the product and price it and sell it in the right way so that I can build a big company. And you may not be aligned necessarily with the corporate VC, and the corporate VC typically doesn't have that experience to teach you that, right? At the Series A, the money is used to scale sales or marketing. That's really what the money should be used for. And again, that's not where those guys are super experts, so it's not the best money you can get. You should go to people that have built, that have done that, and in other companies. That's the best investor you could get in a Series A. I know that a lot of people will say that corporates will take you the wrong way, and they want it. They're thinking about themselves first, and then about making money, and that's true in most cases. So every time you take corporate money, you have to be very clear on what you're signing up for, terms, information rights, board seats, et cetera. And I just will tell a story, because in one of our companies, there was a corporate that was really interested in investing in them. And I'm like, oh my God, no. And I call them and they're like, it's a clean term sheet. I'm like, really? And they gave us a term sheet. It was really clean, but then there was a side letter. And it was like we were giving our company away. So, I think the devil is on the details, but if you're running a corporate venture firm, you typically have the mission of helping your, the mother ship, right? Your mission is not to return investment to LPs. So you have to be very clear what's the goal of the person that's giving you the money.
Yeah, later stages, if you're going to use it, it would be best. I mean, I think one of the advantages of corporate VC is distribution capabilities. They already have kind of boots on the ground out there, so that's for scale. Realize, of course, there's other initiatives that they have, and sometimes those initiatives might conflict. Maybe they have some other division that they're working on in their innovations department, and there's supposed to be a clear membrane there that doesn't have information passed from the VC arm to the innovation division, but sometimes there could be. You just don't know. So you just got to kind of be careful of that. The other thing is that you want to maybe keep your opportunity open to have acquisition opportunities of other companies, and if you happen to bring on one, you might actually scare away others in that same sector too, potentially. So it's just something to think about. So next question. I just lost it, darn it. I was wanting to have Brian Soprano.
A couple of us here, we're from this company called Seco Labs. And what we did basically is we invented a technology that can dry an article of clothing in less than 60 seconds. So my question is, how do you know when to switch from seed or angel funding to VC funding, and is there an advantage to doing it at one point or another point?
Well, congrats on your seed funding. That's good. Okay, so I don't know how to answer the question, but I'll try to tell you basically the stages of a company, and then we can talk about who is the right person at every stage, okay? And by the way, angels are people and VCs are people, so we're all people at the end of the day, and we all typically want to help people. But I will explain at least the phases of a company, and then we can talk about funding. So at every company there's a time zero, which is the time before which there was no company or no idea, and the time after which there was something. And you guys are all here, so you're post T0. But at that time, there's no product, there's no customer, there's no nothing, right? So the only thing you're selling is basically your dream and yourself and whoever you have been able to convince to join you, right? If a company has, typically at that stage is what's called friends. Friends and family and fools, I heard the other day.
Yeah.
So, that's what people give you money. I think today's day and age, there's a lot of accelerators that people go to get started, where they get a little bit of money to at least build something or get some sort of validation, et cetera, right? It's really rare to get a venture person, a venture fund, interested when it's idea stage and there's nothing, unless they know you, right? So if you've been a second-time founder, or they've known you for a long time, or your ex-boss is now VC and they know that you are an amazing person and you're gonna build whatever you say you're building. But typically, it's really, it's hard to do. So, if you're at that stage, your family, unless they're in this business, or your friends, they may not be able to help you that much, but it doesn't matter because they're giving you a little money to go play and figure something out, right? Obviously, if you're lucky to get the money from a fool that knows, then you're gonna get more out of it, because hopefully they'll be able to guide you in the right direction. So that's like a T0 or kind of fool's type company. Some of these companies end up with an come out of an accelerator and they end up raising pre-seed, or a lot of people that are T0, they'll say, I'm ready for a pre-seed. And at a pre-seed, there are venture firms that lead them, like we do. We'll invest in a pre-seed stage company. But we're looking for, or most people are looking for more than an idea. Like, did they build a prototype? Did they talk to customers? Is there any sort of validation of whatever they're doing, right? And to be honest, in this day and age, even if you're not a technical founder, there's almost no excuse for not having something, because you can go online and learn how to build something very easily, right? Even if you don't think you're an engineer and you're incapable of doing it, I promise you're capable. You can, just takes time and patience. So, actually, some of our companies that, I believe it was a lot of the DoorDash guys, they became Uber drivers before they did DoorDash, just to learn how to go. So we're looking for snippets of things that make sense to, that are indicative that you're gonna be able to do something. Okay, now let's assume you get your pre-seed money, or you guys, your money to build your drying machine. Once you have an initial product and at least a couple of customers that like it, or if you're doing consumer, like a few users that really like it, we would consider you ready for a seed round, right? And they're not necessarily, and a seed round in my mind is something from $1.5 to $3 million, okay? And a pre-seed, something under $1 million. So at that point, we're looking for like, hey, did these guys have a product that some people can't live without, or did they sell it in a company? Like, you're selling your scheduling thing, so maybe it went to some department in a hospital, they started to use it, and we see that 2 months later, 3 groups in the hospital are using it. Maybe you're not making a lot of money, but that's a good sign for me to know that, hey, this is a good candidate for seed, right? And then at that point, I would extremely recommend that you raise money from a venture investor, from a fund. The numbers don't lie. If you go to Crunchbase and you plot your chances of getting a Series A as a seed company, is very low. It's under 10%. I think if you go to YC, it's 20. But if you raise money, if you raise a seed round from an institutional seed fund that is good and has a lead, your chances will go up to 40%. So you should, if you can, look for that person that's going to help you out, right? And that person is going to try to figure out, knows what the Series A looks like. So in his case, I'd be like, okay, I'm just going to play with your company. But I'd be like, okay, how expensive is it to get another hospital to sign up? And how long does it take you to get your sales and marketing money back from selling this product in an account? And What's the churn? Are people still engaged after a year? Whatever. That's what I'm trying to get you to do in the seed round so you can raise your Series A. So anyways.
Yeah. Yeah, follow up, sure.
Do I help them find customers before we invest? I wouldn't say that's my job, but I'll reach out to customers to see if they're interested in the product, right? So maybe his company, Sean's company, let's assume he didn't have the software, but he came to pitch me for pre-seed. Hey, I think there's a problem in scheduling. I've talked to all these hospital directors. There's nothing in the space, and I think I can build a product that solves this problem. I will call some hospital administrators and say, hey, do you have a problem in scheduling? Sometimes they'll be like, no, actually, I use this, and it's perfectly fine. Or sometimes they'll be like, yes, there is a problem. So I'll do some of those calls. But I'm not there saying like, okay, well, let me introduce you to this company I just met, and let me connect you. I'm not doing that.
Because part of that is part of the iteration process that we want the founders to go through as well, So you're going to have to wear a lot of different hats, technologist, but also biz dev as well, And you have to just do that initially, and then for B2B, that's kind of that grind sometimes as a CTO type. You just have to do it sometimes. So, you were talking about stages, and a lot of VC firms have kind of moved upstream, if I will, or downstream, if I'll call it, which is it's getting confusing, I think, and it was nice for you to put some labels on what you deem to be, pre-seed and seed. So, and what were those again in regards to pre-seed and seed for you guys? What do you see as that range again? Because sometimes it's better just to talk about dollars as opposed to a seed stage. Because if you go talk to a Series A VC, they almost always will say they do seed sometimes too, but the reality is they don't really, unless they need to put $5 million into a seed, which is not really a seed again. So,
yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of seeds out there. There's little seeds like sesame seeds, and there is mango seeds, and any collection of seed in between. So you can raise any value you can, right? I think it's important for you, my advice is typically this is the most expensive money you'll ever raise because it's at the lowest valuation possible. So, a good sign of a founder, when I get a founder and they're like, oh, I need 2, but I'm raising 4. I'll be like, why? Because I just want to have a cushion. I'm like, dude, you're like giving away your company. Why would you do that? It's not a good sign. You don't want people that are, it's just not. Do you think Mark Zuckerberg would have given another 10% to some? That's not what a good founder does, right? You raise enough and you have a little more maybe, but not like a lot more, right? And there's raising money, I think a lot of people go around here in the Valley with this badge of honor. Like, I've raised $4 million, I've raised 10 or 20. I'm like, well, who cares? Are you making money or are you not making money? That's that truth. And a lot of people end up raising a lot of money and they shut down. So it's not a sign of success, in my opinion, to raise money, okay? The sign of success is, when you start, do you have a product somebody likes, one person? And people sometimes are thinking like, how do I distribute to the rest of the world? I'm like, can you get one person that likes it? You get one person that likes it. And the next sign of success is, can you get 10? And you as a founder. And the next person is, can you hire somebody that can get another 10? And it's not gonna cost you too much money, right? And those are the way I define stages. So pre-seed should get you to a happy customer. Seed, should be able to get you to somebody else selling your product in an efficient way. Or if you're in consumer, you figure out your digital marketing, or growth for your product. But I don't think about money. When people talk about numbers, it changes all the time. It's really about where you are. And if you wanna raise again Series A, people are gonna look at whether you could be a business or not. They're not looking at how much money you raised or how many people you have or whether you were bootstrapped or not. It's like, can you potentially build a big company?
Mm-hmm. Maybe you can talk to, because a lot of companies when they're fundraising, they just go after a list of some name VCs that they know, but they don't necessarily know that they're calling upon VCs that really aren't in their stage. And even though sometimes that Series A will say they do seed and so they think that it's worth going after them. Fund size. Maybe you can talk about fund size and how that's sometimes an indicator of really what they should be looking at.
Well, the big Series A funds, sometimes they do seeds, and it kind of goes, I've been in this business for a while now, and they'll do seed for a couple of years, and they shut it down, then they revamp it in another form or some other. But for them, seed is really a way of sourcing deals, and sometimes they, like I said, they do these seeds on second-time founders and so on. They're not the usual seed investor. A great Series A investor is able to deploy those $10, $20 million very effectively. So that means he's going to help you build a management team. He's going to be able to put in place a global sales force, et cetera. They'll bring everybody that's needed in a company, HR, et cetera, everybody, right? They build that company at that stage. A seed investor is the investor that every day is trying to figure out how to build that engine of growth that somebody can put gas and grow, right? So we're very different. And typically, if you have $1 billion fund, you have to deploy that money by investing a lot of money in in companies. You can't just write $1 million checks or $2 million checks because you would need 500 companies, and you can't manage 500 companies, right? So let's assume you are in a Series A fund, and maybe Arash is here. He has 10 companies in the portfolio. 8 of them, he's put in $40 million in each of them, or he's earmarked $40 million for each of them. And then he does one seed investment of $1 million. Okay? Where is he going to spend his time? He's going to spend his time in the companies where, he has a lot of money into. It's just, and then he's going to want to spend his time in the things that he likes to do and he knows to do, because, again, we're all people and we like to do the things, we do what we like to do and what we know. So they're not there like, oh shit, let's go see the onboarding flow, and instead of working, let's try this pricing instead of that pricing. Let's go write this 3 tasks. That's not what they do. So it's not the best money. Of course, it's not bad money, but it's not the best money you could get.
Is Valerie here? Valerie with Watts Global? Okay, great. Yes, I'll let you pitch here. Yeah, pitching.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Hi, everybody. My name is Valery, co-founder of Watts Global. And my question exactly, what kind of unique value your fund adds to startups like your house? Thank you.
Yeah, I think I said a little bit of that earlier.
At the end of the day, it's core tech,
Yeah.
Do you guys invest in that, which might have a horizon that's a little bit down there,
We do. It's not like, I think it's not the majority of our portfolio companies, but I do have some companies, building autonomous drones or autonomous vehicles, and I have companies doing semiconductor chips, and I have biotech companies doing crazy things. So yes, I do, but I would say that's maybe 15% of our portfolio, I would guess, roughly. And I know your question, what is different? It's what I said. We're very hands-on, very metric-driven, and we're really trying to, really think of a company as almost like each company that comes in as. My question is always, how can I get them to be a big company? And we're obsessed with that, I would say. So that's what you would get if you were working with me. Maybe I would be a pain in the ass.
Last question here, I think. So we, because I don't want to keep Martina, she's got a drive coming up here, actually. Jim D. All right. Last question here. Might just pass the mic down if that's okay. Guys, can I pass the mic down? Good. Taylor?
Yeah, I'm Jim. Actually, I just left Facebook today to do a trusted social supply chain. Anyway, the question deals with, are you always looking for a home run, like 100 to 1 or 10 to 1 or 50 to 1 within 3 to 5, or what period of time?
Yes, I'm always looking for a home run. So, you can do seed investing in many different ways. I think there's a lot of people that run funds that say, okay, if it's $100 million exit, it's okay, it's enough, right? And that's how they do the evaluation. Of course, it could be a great return, but we're not looking for that. We really, my partner and I, would like to be involved in companies that make a huge difference in the world. and it's very rewarding. You know, we had an IPO last October. It's a company called Garden Health. The founders are electrical engineers. They did their PhD with me. They're not doctors, but they built liquid biopsy diagnosis tests. So they measure your blood, and they are able to figure out the cell-free DNA from the tumor. They analyze it, and that is useful because you can target your therapy better and more effectively, right? When you see the video of this company, they literally are saving people's lives, like literally saving people's life. I mean, even me, I'm like been an investor since day one, and I watch the video and I cry because it's so impactful. This company now is like I think it's like an $8 billion valuation, and I mean, I can go home and be very proud to my children to say that we're investing in a company that makes a difference. I'm not home a lot, so when my kids go home to school and they say, my mom is at DoorDash, it makes them happy, it makes me happy. So that's what we're looking for. I love the challenge to build something big. It's really what motivates me. I don't really want to invest in something that's gonna get sold to somebody else for X. That's not my kind of company, but it doesn't mean that that's not the right company for somebody. And the founder needs to be very, very aware of that, because some people have it in them to build these companies, and some people don't have it in them, right? And if the worst thing is that you're an imposter and you're trying to be who you're not, because then things don't work out, right? So if you want to build a $100 million company, we should find investors that really want to build that company, and they're going to be very happy, and you're going to get your exit, they're going to get their exit. If you want to build, an important defining company, then you can come see me.
Good. Well, Mar, I really appreciate you taking the time to be able to be with us tonight. And I know, like I said, you can do a lot of different things on a Tuesday night. We really appreciate it very much. So once again, thank you, Mar.